So we've got a new lineup of irons from Srixon, and that's what we're going to look at in this video. 3 different models aimed at different types of golfers. We're going to run through that, test and provide you with some numbers and see how these new irons perform. So as I mentioned, there's 3 models we're going to look at in this video. We've got the ZX7, we've got a ZX5, a little bit more strong, a little bit more forgiveness, and then ZX4, which is the hollow construction. That's an interesting one because that is quite different from the previous models. So we're going to start off with the ZX4, which is the hollow construction iron. I'm going to hit some shots with this, and this is quite a different look to what we've seen in the previous ZX4 model. Still hollow construction, but when you look at it at the back, it looks more like a normal cavity back iron. Typically when you see hollow constructions, they tend to be a bit more bulbous at the back, a bit more chunkier, and this is a little bit more chunky than what we see there, but it does look more like an iron or a cavity back iron appearance from the back. And then as we sit that down by the golf ball, we don't see anything protruding at the back of the top line there, which is good. So it does look more like, again, that normal sort of iron. Don't get me wrong, blade length, heel to toe is quite long, thickish, sort of squarish top line. So we know we've got some substance behind that. We know typically when we see that, we're always going to have some bulk and some mass behind that hitting area. Oh, and that's a lovely one to start things off. Nice, clicky sort of sound to that. Again, we typically see that, don't we, in those hollow construction irons. Hollow, you know, creates those different acoustics inside, a little bit clicker off the face, but it's not a offensive noise, that. So this is a 7 iron that I'm hitting, and this coming in at 28.5 degrees of loft. So as you'd expect in this type of iron, it's in that stronger category. So moving that, maybe that weight around in that club, as they obviously have the hollow construction at the back, and can shift that weight around, lower it in that CG, which obviously then helps that launch to be a little bit higher, even though it is a stronger loft. Oh, a bit pulley from me, but again, the strike was good. It feels good off the club face. I like the feel of that. And first thing that just jumps out those first 2 shots, so that spin rate isn't ridiculously low, which is quite refreshing, because sometimes, you know, those strong lofts, 28.5 degrees, sometimes that spin just gets ripped down and it just got very flat sort of flight, very difficult to sort of stop it. So you look at that land angle there at 47 degrees with a spin around that 6,000, it's got some stopping power, that. So we've got a 431 stainless steel body with a forged club face. So it's not a fully forged iron, but we have got this mainframe technology is what Srixon are calling it. We're going to see that in the ZX5 as well, and something a little bit different in the ZX7, which obviously I'm going to come to. So mainframe is basically taking some weight around the perimeter of that iron. Again, it's all about maybe a little bit of that flexing and trying to get that ball speed up is what Srixon are talking about. But a really nice sort of look. Obviously, we've got some offset on there as you're going to expect, but we've got that sort of satin finish. It looks quite nice down by that golf ball. There's a little bit of reaction to that slightly pulley one there, just left that out a tiny bit, but it's again decent strike and some good ball speed at 125. So type of golfer maybe the ZX4 is maybe aimed at somebody who's looking for ultimate sort of forgiveness, you know, that hollow construction, mainframe technology, really sort of helping on getting that perimeter weight in the iron. And obviously maybe somebody who just wants to get that ball flighted a little bit more with that little bit of extra speed maybe on that club face. Oh, that's okay, a little bit of a test, just touch pulley there, a little bit low in the club face, just felt that a touch low in that strike, but again, some decent ball speed, and then maybe that advantage of that sort of hollow construction, shifting that weight around allows us to keep that ball speed up, and probably a little bit of that mainframe technology as well, just helping on that flexing in different areas of that club face. Okay, so switching now over into the ZX5. So this is a bit more what Srixon are calling that player's distance iron. So the looks now and the size of the head is just going to be a little bit more refined, but we've still got that sort of strength and that sort of ball speed, so to speak. So loft on this 7 iron is now 31 degrees, so obviously a little bit more loft than we saw in the 4. Now, again, instincts putting this down by the golf ball, it does become a little bit more squat. So a little bit not as long from that heel to toe, the blade length. The top line still relatively thick, but not quite as blocky as we saw in the ZX4. So a bit more of a nicer sort of shape into the actual head itself. Still some offset, but not quite as much. Oh, that's a nice high ball flight on that one. So first instincts really with that one, again, that ball speed was pretty good there. Launch, that spin number is pretty high there for a 31 degree loft. So the first thing I sort of noticed there is the sound of that golf club. Now it's a little bit different to what we've seen in the 4. So we've now got a 1020 carbon forged body, but with a steel face. And again, that clicky sort of sound is still in that particular club. So yes, we've got the word Forge stamped on the back, and there is a forged body there, but the face isn't forged. So we're not going to get that buttery sort of feel with this type of iron. So sometimes always worth remembering, the good these manufacturers, they will stamp certain words on there, and you think that's a fully forged, but it's not. It's just a forged body. And that's obviously for a reason there, to try and, again, keep that ball speed up. You know, at the end of the day, this is still a little bit of a distance iron, but more with that sort of what they call that player's sort of shaping and look. So with all these models, we still have that VT sole that Srixon have now done in many of their generations of their irons. So really that helps with that turf interaction, keeps that club sort of working through the turf without losing speed. So with the 5 here, again, we've still got a relatively sort of wideish sole, but obviously with the VT sole, that back part of it is chamfered off a little bit more than it would do if obviously we didn't have that VT sole. But again, nice look behind that golf ball. Again, that satin finish. All right, that felt a touch low heel. A little bit low in the face. Ball speed is still pretty good there. 124 from that strike. Yeah, a fraction sort of low heel, but not by much. And again, that spin's pretty controlled there. So we've still got that mainframe technology, which is all these sort of notches and channels sort of around the perimeter of the actual face. So again, that's helping with that sort of flexing as we talked about in the ZX4. Just leaked that one. That didn't feel as good. Just a little bit open on that club face. But again, ball speed's not bad for that shot. Spin, good. Carry just around that 170 mark. So maybe the type of golfer this ZX5 maybe is aimed at is probably that maybe sort of mid handicap, going even into sort of single figure golfer really, who maybe just wants that little bit of help on the forgiveness, maybe a little bit of that power, but wants to have that little bit more, that need to look in relation to maybe that ZX4. And then finally moving into the ZX7, so the full forge option. So this is compact, pure control. That's what Srixon are saying this iron is all about. So again, we've just gone a little bit more compact. We see that sole now, a little bit narrow, still see that VT sole, and playing position wise, this is a beautiful shape, really nice sort of shape. Again, just looks a tiny bit more compact than the 5. But to be fair, that top edge doesn't go mega thin, which is good, I think. You know, still got a bit of a thickness in that top edge. Offset just looks to be a little bit less yet again. So beautiful shape, my eye. I've played ZX7 in a number of models ago, and it was a really nice iron, beautiful sort of feel. And I think sometimes Srixon are very much run under the radar in terms of their irons in maybe relation to other brands. Yes, you don't see them sort of shouting out at the rooftop as much as maybe some of the bigger brands do, but they are very nice feeling irons, especially the Forge ones. So again, 7 iron, and this is 32 degrees of loft, so it's not mega weak, but at the same time, it's obviously not mega strong. Oh, wow, and that is a different feel altogether compared to the other 2 models. That felt superb, and that wasn't the purest of strikes. That was a little bit on that heel. Straight away the sounds, we know I'm hitting a fully forged iron there. It just doesn't feel as clicky, or it doesn't sound as clicky, a little bit more softer off that club face. Yeah, feels very, very good. It just doesn't look as explosive off the club face. And you can see that ball speed, obviously not as quick as the other 2 models potentially. Again, we'll look at some numbers in a little bit more detail, but maybe the type of golfer going into this iron doesn't want it exploding off too fast. You know, it wants that a little bit more, that control, predictability, which is obviously what Srixon are talking about in this iron. So the main frame technology we saw in the other 2 irons is now gone. That's changed. So this is now a pure frame is what Srixon are calling it. So basically they're putting a little bit more of a ridge and a mass a little bit behind the actual hitting area in this forged carbon steel head. So that's providing a real sort of soft feel off the club face. I probably agree with that. It does feel very, very, very soft off the face. And again, we're seeing VT sole, as we see with the other ones. Ooh, just held on to that one a little bit, slightly pulled. But again, the flight looks good. Feel off the club face, superb. Oh, that feels beautiful. Beautiful feel off that face, beautiful sound to it. So I think for me, Srixon just always sit under that radar, as I mentioned before. You know, they don't maybe get the exposure and the credit for the quality of the irons maybe is what other brands tend to sort of see. So the other thing that's just happening actually on all three of these models are the grooves. So with the longer irons up to the 7 iron, we see a sort of wider groove. And then when we move into those scoring irons, we see the groove set come a little bit tighter and closer and deeper. So obviously on the scoring irons, we want ultimate control, where maybe not so much so in that longer iron. So it's just trying to get that consistency of that spin. Okay, so a quick look at the numbers between those three models. So we see the 4 at the bottom, then the 5, then the 7. So you see club head speed pretty much identical as you're going to expect. Ball speed wise, just a little bit more with the 4, probably just with that slightly stronger loft. Obviously, maybe a little bit that hollow construction just creates a little bit more sort of spring off that club face. Launching a touch lower, but then the spin was pretty good for that strength of iron. It's averaging around that sort of 6,000. So some good sort of numbers there and some good land angle. Moving into the 5, you can see obviously ball speed just drops a little bit as we add some loft to it, a little bit of a higher launch on that particular one. And again, the spin number surprised me a little bit from that type of iron. You know, some good control, and again, land angle there coming in at 170 on that carry distance. And then moving into the 7, we can see similar ball speed. It was only 1 degree difference of that loft. Launch was a little bit lower there actually, at 6, just sort of 17, so just over a degree lower as an average, but again, there's some good spin number there at 170. So potentially you could blend the 5 and the 7 quite nice. Maybe the only thing I would just say from that is the feel aspect is different. It's a little bit more clicky with the 5 and very sort of soft feeling with the 7. Okay, so there we go, strong lineup for me from Srixon. Again, they just sit under that radar as I mentioned, so just if you can and you have the availability to try these, give them a go. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Appreciate that watching the video as always. If you've enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, and hopefully catch up with you all very soon.